what's up and welcome back to my channel. Okay, so today we're going to be discussing the shooting that took place in downtown Austin at the Black Lives Matter protest that had been going on for, I believe, 50 days. Now, the victim in this situation was a Mr. Garret Foster. He was a 28-year-old resident of Austin, a white male, and he was in attendance at this protest. And unfortunately, Mr. Foster did die of a gunshot wound. Now, first and foremost, before we discuss anything, I'm going to take a few moments. I have quite a few notes here, and I'm going to go down the facts of the case as we know it at this moment. I'm going to insert a few videos throughout this video so that you guys can see a visual of what we're talking about here, and then we're going to come back and discuss it. Okay, so as I stated before, this was a Black Lives Matter protest that had been going on 50 days. Mr. Foster, it had been confirmed by his mother that he had been, I think, in attendance at this protest almost every day of it, along with his fiance, Whitney Mitchell. Okay, so here is what the report is. On July 25th at approximately 9:51 p.m., officers reported, these are officers that were at the protest, reported hearing multiple shots fired in the protest area. Officers working the protest immediately moved into action and found Mr. Foster lying on the ground with multiple gunshot wounds. They did attempt to start life-saving measures on site until EMTs arrived, at which point the EMTs transferred him to Austin County Medical Center, where he succumbed to his injuries and passed away. Okay, so as far as the details of what transpired after the actual shooting, there were multiple calls to 911, but one in particular was from an individual who claimed they had just been involved in the shooting and drove away. The caller claimed that they were in their vehicle driving down the street where the protest was, and a protester came up to their vehicle, pointed a gun at them through the driver window, and then, the shooting back and forth ensued. 911 advised this caller to pull over immediately where they were at, which they did. 911 dispatched police to go meet them. They then brought the vehicle and the driver into the police station for further questioning. And they also took the vehicle and the registered handgun that the driver of the vehicle had as evidence. In addition to that caller at the scene, there were multiple witnesses that were interviewed and described many different variations of what happened at the incident in Austin during the shooting. One witness says that the disturbance began when the vehicle began driving onto the street of the incident and began honking at the protesters. Now, I am going to quickly put in a video right here so that you guys can see kind of a visual of what I'm talking about, and then we'll come back and I'll give you more details. Okay, so I want you to pay attention to the right-hand side of the screen. You're going to see a vehicle approaching the corner and making the right-hand turn, at which point they put their brake lights on. It is said that they beep their horn at the protesters. You see the protesters running towards the vehicle and then quickly running away as the gunshots are heard. The second viewpoint right here is from another protester's camera. That's the car that you saw made the turn in the previous clip. The protesters are marching, obviously, in the direction you saw in the earlier clip. And then they turn back around to get involved in whatever's happening by the vehicle. You see them running back shortly. And then gunshots are heard after somebody says, "Everybody back up," and you see them all run away. Now, this particular person that shot this video had been following the protest for, I believe, the past 2 hours. So, without anybody really knowing what was going on or where the gunshots were coming from, they took cover to protect themselves. from what was going on. Right here is a screen capture, and on the left-hand side is Mr. Jeremy holding a vehicle, or I'm sorry, not a vehicle. He's holding his weapon in a way that I would say he's holding it to potentially fire it towards the vehicle that you saw in the clip. Okay, so the vehicle, as it approached, turned that corner, approached the protesters, they stopped, obviously due to people being in the road. And Mr. Foster, who was there, was holding an AK-47 type weapon. Okay, it's not been confirmed that it was an AK-47, but it looks to be an AK-47. Mr. Foster was then witnessed allegedly approaching the driver's side window as the protesters began to start striking the vehicle. Why they were striking the vehicle, I don't know. After that, gunshots were fired from inside the vehicle at Mr. Foster. That is what the witnesses that they have interviewed so far on site are claiming. Some eyewitnesses state that Mr. Foster may have pointed his weapon at the driver of the vehicle prior to him actually being shot. Okay, so I want to make it very clear that we have multiple versions of this story at hand. Okay, another vehicle that was driving by reported hearing gunshots, multiple gunshots, and observing the first vehicle that I was talking about earlier driving away from the crowd. That secondary vehicle then drew their weapon. Okay, they were also a registered gun owner, drew their weapon and admitted to firing multiple shots at the vehicle that was driving away. Okay, both owners of those vehicles called into 911 and reported their involvement in the incident. Okay, their weapons, their vehicles were kept as evidence, and they gave their testimony as well. As of right now, the investigation is ongoing as they review all of the videos that have been taken. They're asking that if anybody has any videos, that they please contact the police department. I'm going to insert the number on who you need to contact if you have any information or if you know of any additional videos that are out there. And as they await also any additional eyewitness testimony. Both of the individuals that were owners of the vehicles involved in the shooting have been released pending further investigation. But I want to note that both had legal license to carry their weapon and they were 100% cooperative with police. And as for Mr. Foster, autopsy results are still pending as to what the official cause of death is. Obviously, it's going to be of a gunshot wound, but the details of, you know, how many gunshots he took is still pending. Okay. So a couple of things that I want to note here. As I stated earlier, Whitney Mitchell, who is Foster's fiance, was with him at the protest. Now, an interesting note about Miss Mitchell is she is African American. Again, she is Mr. Foster's fiance, and she is in a wheelchair due to being a quadruple amputee. She, a couple years back, suffered septic shock and had to lose all her limbs as a result. Very, very sad story. And Mr. Foster cared for her, has been caring for her. They were clearly in love. You know, anybody that has given an interview about their relationship has said they were in love. He took great care of her. So that part is very sad. What I think is interesting, and I want to know your guys' thoughts. What I think is interesting is that the media is highlighting the fact that he was shot alongside his African American girlfriend in a wheelchair. Now, why that matters, what her race is, or if she's in a wheelchair, why that matters to the details of the investigation and of the incident as a whole, I'm really confused about. I really just think they're using it to, you know, gain attention. I will note in here, and I'm very upset about it because Sean King has already made a post on his website, on his Instagram page, about how tragic this is, you know, that he was a civil rights activist, and he was shot in cold blood with his girlfriend. And he made sure to notate that he would like you to donate to his Grassroots Fund Foundation, which is tied to Act Blue, as is Black Lives Matter, to help the cause of fighting the injustice that happened with Mr. Foster's case. Interestingly enough, Mr. Foster's family has set up a GoFundMe page, which I will link also at the end of this video, if you would like to donate to that, rather than donating to Shaun King's grassroots movement funding, which I don't think would go towards Mr. Foster's family or any of his expenses. But I digress. Okay, I digress. The other thing that is very interesting is, yes, we are in Texas. Yes, Texas is a gun-friendly state. Yes, Mr. Foster was prior military, but I find it really interesting that you're at what you call a peaceful protest carrying not a handgun, okay, not a concealed weapon, but a big ass AK-47, okay? On top of that, the whole, Black Lives Matter movement is about police brutality, and part of it is, protesting the use of lethal force. And here you are with a gigantic weapon. Now, I want to make it very clear that I am not saying any of that justifies him being shot. I'm not saying that. I want to make that very clear. I am not saying I think that he should have gotten shot simply because he was carrying a weapon. He had a license to carry that weapon. He was well within his rights, but without knowing the full details of how that altercation ensued, I'm only left to kind of, give my opinion about, you bring a big ass gun to what you call a peaceful protest, and what do you think is going to happen? He's a white guy. I said the same thing when I see black guys with weapons, anybody with a weapon. You bring a weapon to a situation that's already heated, that we already know these protests always turn out, for the most part, violent. People are getting hurt, and you bring a weapon and, violence ensues. So that's part of my question as to, are we going to recognize that? Are we going to recognize that maybe him bringing a gigantic AK-47 to a peaceful protest maybe wasn't the smartest thing to do? I mean, what were you expecting to encounter that you needed to have an AK-47 if it's a peaceful protest and Black Lives Matter is not about violence? Okay, the other thing I want to bring to the table, just as my opinion, is it kind of goes hand in hand with bringing kids to protests, okay? This guy brought his wife, who is a quadruple amputee, to a protest in her wheelchair, okay? Knowing, again, how these protests usually end up and that there's always a lot of chaos. I mean, I get they're two adults. They can both consent. If she wanted to come, that's fine. But, if you really care about somebody, why would you bring them to a protest in a wheelchair, okay? It's just crazy to me. Thankfully, Miss Mitchell was not hurt in the shooting that I know of. She was not hurt physically, but, she could have been. And I don't know what the purpose of it was for her to necessarily be there. Not that people in wheelchairs don't have the right to protest, don't have the right to do what they want to do. They can do whatever they want to do. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, why would you put your loved one in a position like that? Does that make sense? I hope it does. I want to know what you guys think about that. Another thing I want to point out as you watch the video of the protest, okay, I want you to pay close attention to these details, because this is very important to understand the mood and the temperature at these types of protests, and what to look out for if you decide to go to these things and know, what you're up against, okay? So I'm gonna, insert the video for you guys to see where the car turns the corner. You see the protesters marching forward. Now, the video point of view is from a dash cam that you're seeing. So you're looking at the corner that the shooting took place on. I believe it was Commerce Street in Austin. So the dash cam is looking down the street. You see a car come, make a right turn, to go forward. and you see the protesters that are marching in the opposite direction. Now, as soon as that car turns that corner, what the eyewitness testimony says is that the car started to honk, I'm assuming at the protesters to get out of the way, excuse me. The minute the honking happens, you see that the protesters that are marching this way quickly turn around to go get involved in whatever's happening over there by the car. After they run towards the car, you hear somebody say, "Everybody back up," and then the shooting happens, and then you see them scurry away. Okay, so it's important to say that because you can see how these protesters agitate situations. And this is why these types of things are so dangerous. This is why, you know, while I believe in people's right to protest, I think we need to draw the line somewhere, because these protests are now, you know, have been proven time and time again that they are not safe environments. They're not peaceful protests. For the most part, they have been, you know, violent at one point or another. So I want you guys to take a look at those videos. I want you guys to give me your opinion. And as we find out more details about the case, I will definitely do a follow-up video, but definitely stay on through the end of this video so that you can take note of the hotline that you need to call in case you have any further information about the case, especially if you're here in Texas like I am. A lot of people from Dallas will drive down to Austin. It's only 3 hours away, and go to these protests. So if anybody that's watching this video has any information, the number will be listed at the end. And I will also, out of fairness, list the link to Mr. Foster's GoFundMe, so that if you would like to donate to his family for that, I 100%, think that that's great if you want to do that. Much rather you do that than donate to Sean King, because Sean King is a fraud. But I will do another video. I'll do another video on that another time. This video was simply to state the facts of Mr. Foster's case as we know it today, and to get your all's opinion on what you think so far. Do not forget to comment below in this video. Give this video a thumbs up if you liked it. Share it if you think somebody would enjoy seeing it, and subscribe to my channel. Most importantly, if you want to make sure not to miss when I drop the next video about this topic or any other topic, you have to go and hit the notifications bell so that you get a ding in your phone the minute I post a video, so you can be one of the first to see it, one of the first to comment on it. And I always love hearing from you guys. I always love going back and forth with you guys. So that's all I got today. Thanks for watching my channel, and you guys have a good one. Bye-bye.